Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The Cryptid Huntress. Once again, it is time for you and I to link up for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. Yeah, I have been sleeping for so long and really do need to replenish lost nutrition. Absolutely delicious. And now that Jessica Jones has released me from my shackles and allowed me to power up, it is once again time for us to take a walk to the madness.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf. And everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, yes, once again you are tuning in to LordeStarfox Radio. I see you have found your way into the Fox Den to join the Cryptid Huntress, aka Jessica Jones, and myself as we sit around the late night fire and burn the timber into the early hours of the morning. Read a few more chapters from the Midnight Society book. Jessica, what the heck you been up to, my friend?
Hey there, man. I've just been doing the same stuff, shows, field research, you name it, I'm out there doing it. Actually, I just got home today. I've been out in the field a little bit and running wild, just having a blast. How have you been?
Excellent stuff right there. I see you're busy as always. I'm not as busy per se as traveling all around like you had just mentioned, but I did achieve a show previous to our link up right here. Partially edited another episode, just chilling with my squirrel, and also working on artwork, watching a ton of interesting content lately.
That's great. Man, that's great. I was thinking about you recently. The past couple of weeks, I've done several shows on werewolves and dogmen and super soldier programs where they are utilizing animal-human hybrids and stuff. And it made me think of you a couple of times when I was doing some of those shows and all this research lately. So especially the World War II werewolves, that was a pretty cool show. I kind of dove into the Winter War, the Black Forest, and the guerrilla warfare that was going on back then, involving the werewolf unit out of Germany. So cool stuff. I know you and I have kind of talked about it before. I don't know if we talked about it on air, but yeah, you did come up at some point. I mentioned you, but yeah,
Well,
fun stuff.
thank you right there. Great stuff. I do appreciate you. I always watch your stuff. I make sure to get caught up on what you're up to. I really do want to be more active in your chats. Half of the time when I wake up, your show's already going. Also, at the moment, no exaggeration, all I do is edit and trying to get monetized. This is great though, no complaints. I mean, this is beautiful, but I have over 35 hours of content that I still need to edit. I also always make sure to keep my schedule full into the next weeks and the following weeks. it's an ongoing ecosystem, more or less. I like to look at it as it's always going to be growing and adapting. But once I'm able to get monetized, I only need around 1,200 more hours here. Knock on wood. I will be able to then take a break and just breathe for a second, be more active elsewhere. But I just really want to achieve that, be able to take a second to regroup. To anyone out there that is trying to get monetized, you gotta grind until you do it. I would highly suggest not taking any sort of breaks or lapses until you get monetized. You legit just gotta put what is that saying, the pedal to the metal, more or less. I will definitely be able to be more active in your threads as soon as I get my monetization up. But I mean, I'm always texting you, and I'm always just a text away or a phone call to help you with anything. But I do want to definitely be more active in your threads for sure.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. That's really cool of you. And I really do appreciate it. Yeah, the life of a content creator. I know a little something about that.
Yes, and I mean, I always have time for my friends. I always do make sure to reinvest my time into people that invest their time frames into my content and myself, because I really do appreciate it. I love everybody that loves me back. It's excellent. Yet, to anybody out there, I've mentioned this a few times. If you've come on and you've been a host, I will get your content out. I promise. It's just something that doesn't happen. I have to do the artwork, sit down and be creative, put together how I want the images, the flow of the conversations. I will definitely get things out. It's just not as easy when you're a one team squad. No complaints. I enjoy being an investigative photojournalist and linking up with people. I'm just stating facts. It's not as easy to churn out quality content when you're a one person crew and you're doing things from your phone. It's what it is.
Oh, yeah, I totally feel you on that. But hey, lucky for us, there's no shortage of content and weird cryptid experiences and a lot of Dogman reports out there. So we don't have any trouble with the content, right?
Yes, I mean, that is so true. To the audience, we're going to talk about some pretty interesting stuff with the Beast of Bray Road, yet we are going to see and get caught up with what the Cryptid Huntress has been doing. But to make you chuckle, as I was waiting for you to text me when you wanted to link up and I was editing, I just had some music on in the background. And lately, I've been jamming out to some really awesome stuff. As I stated to you, though, it is becoming harder to explain to my friends and such what type of metal or music I'm into. I was jamming out to Electric Callboy, who I've been listening to since I was 11. They were a German metalcore techno band that is hilarious. Also, Samurai Pizza Cats, which have a song with a member of Electric Callboy about how you should never put pineapples on pizza, and it's absolutely inappropriate. And the whole video is about that. And the song, this couple calls in for a pineapple pizza, and the pineapple just goes on a unaliving spree. It's hilarious.
Oh my gosh, that's the age-old question. I did an entire show one day with a guy, a couple of guys. We were having a debate on whether you should put pineapple on a pizza, and these are cryptid guys too, and it was hilarious. I personally do like pineapple on a pizza, so as long as there's ham and bacon too, you got to have the meat. It's delicious. I'll eat it. I roll with it, man. I love it. I do. I like that.
That's so funny. I will send you this song because one of the verses is I can't sing it all, but it's like, oh, please tell me why you make me want to cry. It's just
And you're
so
making me hungry, man. I'm getting hungry.
you're making my face hurt from laughing. What else have you been diving into, Dogman or werewolf related lately? Anything out of the spectrum of what you've been telling me about?
Oh yeah. Well, I really did a deep dive on the Super Soldier hybrid program, and that was based off of a news art. Well, it's actually a video that somebody sent me after I had done this remote viewing these two targets on Amber Miller and Tony Aarons out of East Tennessee back in the day. This was at least 2 years ago when I was tasked with these targets to look into their attacks. Of course, it was the culprits were packs of wild dogs, but people in the cryptid community were pretty kind of suspicious, thinking that maybe it wasn't a pack of wild dogs for both of them, but on the same road. Okay, on the same road in Cott County. I did look into it, but what I was seeing when I was remote viewing it, the only way I could describe it was zombie bears. Okay, and I know that was super weird, and I couldn't understand what I was seeing, and I wrote down zombie bear. And I thought, man, this is really weird. But a friend, somebody who watches my shows, sent me a link. She said, hey, I think I know what this zombie bear thing is that you're talking about. Here's an article. This is a video that just came out from Israeli News on YouTube. And the guy was covering a congressional hearing where it was like a budget hearing, where a 3-letter agency, let's just say, had gone before Congress asking for budgeting, some money in the budget to cover a program they were trying to stop. Okay, it's a program that had been going on for a while, and they wanted to bring it to a close. They needed, I think it was like $10 million or something, because they wanted to eliminate the assets because it had gotten out of control. And he went on to say that this program was a super soldier program, black budget type of stuff, where they had taken special forces, military soldiers, men and women, as many men as women, and had done some kind of modification, and they were putting them in pairs, and they were dropping them off all over the world in pairs so that they could kind of do an experiment. They're trying to do a super soldier, the ultimate soldier type of a program. They had all of them. They had, GPS tracking devices, like chips inside their bodies, where it monitors their heartbeat, their location, their breathing, and all that kind of stuff, their temperatures. And according to this article, this video, this report, the program went great for about 10 years or so, I think. And they put them in pairs to see if they would reproduce. Okay, reproduce. Now, what he was saying was that actually they were human from the waist down, and they were more animalistic and like beast-like from the waist up, is what he was saying. Now, this is some kind of program that's been going on for decades. Like I said, there's no telling what kind of experiments our military has done, okay, or the 3-letter agencies. But this was just kind of a glimpse into one of them. So the program had gone on for quite some time. He said, this is wild, right? I want you to take note of this. He said that they had dropped off one group, like one pair, which is a male and a female, had been dropped off. 17 of them had been dropped off in the United States. The rest of them, probably hundreds, maybe thousands, we don't know, had been dropped off all over the world. And Russia, China, Brazil, okay, South America had some. But 2 of them were dropped off in East Tennessee, not far from the Oak Ridge Labs and Cott County, where Amber Miller and Tony Aarons were mauled to by what we were told, the public was told, were packs of wild dogs. But when I remote viewed this, I was given targets to remote view, and I was seeing one big creature that all I could describe it as was a zombie bear. It was something that wasn't a bear. Could have been a Dogman or something, That's what a lot of people in the Dogman community were kind of insinuating that it could have been. But it had more bear-like characteristics, whatever I was looking at. So, I covered that about a week ago on my show. I guess it was last Saturday night, maybe. And I just think it's really interesting. The gentleman was also saying in this report that these people, the super soldiers, who had basically been turned into beasts, there was also like a ritualistic element to it as well. And they were implicating We had like, I hate to say this on your show. I said it on my show and it was okay, but there was a president and his wife from Arkansas. Let's just say their name starts with a C. he was our president from the 1990s. During the 1990s. Okay, and his name, their name is synonymous with, unaliving people and stuff. So that's why I'm not going to say it here tonight. But they say that his wife had some sort of connection to this, where she was very heavily involved in this program, in the fact that she was conducting the witchcraft part of this, like the ritualistic aspects of this, the witchcraft part, where they were actually potentially, I know you and I, we don't talk about the werewolves as much as we would Dogmen, because werewolves would, insinuate that there's some sort of a transformation that goes on. Well, let's just say the first lady are said to have been heavily involved in this program, okay, where they were helping to transform people, I guess, like through rituals, or teaching them how to do it. And what stood out to me was that, I really cover the missing people in our national parks. That's one of my main platforms. That's like, I get on my soapbox on that one, right? I want to know where all these people are going that are going missing out of our national parks. Well, they were saying that these beings, these creatures, the humans that have turned basically into beasts, were because I think by now they've all been eliminated probably. But they said that they were living in caves at our national parks, and you could tell which caves they were in because each of the caves would have a pentagram painted on the wall of the cave as you walked in, or right outside of it, which indicates that is ritualistic. There's something maybe satanic about it. I don't know, some kind of ritualistic aspect to it. Now, let me rewind a little bit, because the person who had gone before Congress to ask for the funding, they were trying to discontinue this program. They said that they needed to eliminate the assets they had gotten out of control. Well, they started reproducing, and their offspring were not chipped. Their offspring did not have any kind of tracking device in them. And so the offspring are the ones that were going around wreaking havoc and potentially unaliving people and livestock and all sorts of stuff. And it had just gotten way out of control, according to what this newsman, this news article, this video, according to his reports, he said that it had gotten way out of control and they just needed to go in and eliminate all of it. And that means them. Living beings needed to be exterminated, basically. So I have not gotten an update. There's nothing that I have set in stone. I haven't seen any kind of proof that this all went through. Okay, but you tie this into stories that we hear about the potential of there being like a Dogman breeding program. I mean, that's come up quite a bit. Now, whether that's real or not, I think it could be. I mean, I do believe that our guy does have full knowledge of these cryptids. Bigfoot, my specialty are Bigfoots. I've been a Bigfoot field researcher for a long time. And but I'm also out there chasing Dogmen as well. But there's no doubt in my mind that our has full knowledge of all of this.
Dang, that's all some pretty gnarly, creepy stuff right there for sure. There is definitely a ton of baffling stuff out there. If it was something I could figure out on my own, I wouldn't have to squat up all the time and try to bring together these excellent minds. Yet there's just so many different aspects that are coming into play. So definitely thank you for unloading some great information to the audience there. I have spoken to you a ton. I knew some of that. I hadn't heard all of that. So again, kudos. I wanted to see your thoughts on some of the Beast of Bray Road things that are occurring, because recently I've been able to add Sophia Bierman and Lee Hampel to the Midnight Society, and they both are directly on Bray Road in Wisconsin, which is pretty gnarly. Both have encounters that have occurred. One is ongoing consistently. Others were pretty messed up as well. We have a ton of images they have sent us. Sophia was really good friends with Linda Godfrey, rest in peace. Lee Hanfeld has a farm that he lives about 35 miles away from. The farm itself, where he bales hay, is right on the corner of Bray Road. Creepy as heck. Sophia has tracks that are really large, that look human, like foot size frames in her bed of flowers, where afterwards, from where it stood there, it apparently withered all the flowers as well. Yeah, it was looking in one of her children's windows. She's seen it before in her front yard, bolting around. She's also a bi-weekly host, and we'll be diving more into her encounters next time I link up with her. Lee now has a bunch of 5-pad tracks, which we can't figure out because no known animal or canine has 5 pads. It could be maybe potentially it's walking on its knuckles. I don't know. Super bizarre. It's playing like pranks on him all over his farmstead. There's handprints in areas where there shouldn't be that look humanish. There's also track lines that make no sense, where literally when you and I walk, if we were to try to walk in the same track we just put with our left foot into our right, you could kind of do it, but it's not the most comfortable because it's not a natural track pattern. When we walk, you can see a little bit of a spread in our hips. Well, these tracks go front to toe, almost like a test you would get if you were trying to see if you were sober or not. All of a sudden, they split off into a large gap now in this snowfield. Okay, was there 2 of these things walking directly in each other's path as they split off, or was it one thing that then just manifested into 2 and split off? Super gnarly stuff. Before I tell you a little bit more of what I've learned about the Beast of Bray Road, what do you think about that?
Oh man, I think it's great that you have people that are right there on site, boots on the ground, or living there
Yes.
to get this information. I mean, that is fantastic. I mean, because I mean, the sightings for that go back to at least the 1930s, and it was real big in the 1980s and 90s. You know, there are a lot of eyewitnesses that were people that were accosted by what they call the Beasts of Bray Road. Now, a while back, at least 3 years ago, I was tasked with the remote viewing target of the Beasts of Bray Road, and I found some interesting information out about this. First of all, there's a whole bunch of them. It's not just one. And so I found that really interesting. I'm not shocked, but there's a lot of Beasts of Bray Roads. And I remember specifically, they just want to be left alone. They were not trying to be seen. They didn't really want to, hurt anybody. They, it sounds like the ones at their house know them pretty well, is what it sounds like to me. But for the most part, they really just didn't want to be messed with, and they hide. I even was picking up that they were living underground, like in a den or something. It was really wild. I don't know what kind of landscape they've got around their home with your friends, but I would definitely assume that they're living in caves or some kind of, like I said, like a den or something around there. That's what I picked up on when I was remote viewing them.
So creepy right there again. It makes sense because Lee seems to think from the track patterns, and he's seen multiple ones on his property. He's also had one or maybe numerous ones throw sticks at his truck. He was baling hay. He's the only one on his farm that does this, and it's not like someone would just walk over from the neighbor's area. You'd have to travel a little bit. He came back after setting up the next bale of hay, and there's large human-like handprints on the ground near the tire where some of the pavement was covered in snow. Intriguing. I mean, what would have put its hand like that? Sure, it could have been a person, but like Lee said, there are no other people on his property unless he's asking for them to come help. Sophia also knows, and Drizzy, who was the first girl, more or less, to report to Linda Godfrey that she saw this strange canine-like or werewolf or dogman, whatever, consuming a small animal on the side of the road. It also bolted at her car. And then she had proceeded to link up with Linda because she was a waitress and was working a late night shift. Anyone that knows the case should realize and understand the premises that I'm mentioning already. There was a gentleman that more or less worked at town hall that had a huge manila folder, because this is old school. Yes, it's not like it's all on the computer now or your cell phone, but it said werewolf on it when Drizzy was telling her encounter. Also, Linda had spoken to this gentleman numerous times. Yet from speaking to Sophia and Lee, they don't really know exactly where it falls into. Like, Sophia feels a little bit more that it's just doing what an animal would be doing. But then Lee feels like even though it hasn't hurt anybody yet, it's hurt animals, that it definitely has the capability to hurt somebody if it really wants to, but he feels like it's just screwing with him. Obviously, at any point in time, it could have got him. I mean, if it was close enough to chuck something at his truck or leave a handprint on the ground when he stepped away, it could obviously get him, but he feels like it's just trolling him, more or less.
Yeah, it probably could be. Dogmen have personalities, just like I'm going to say just like us, or just like our dogs. They've got their own personalities, and of course your friends are living probably on their territory right there. Okay, to them that's their home. And so they're going to go and maybe mess around with them, but maybe they're protecting them as well, though. They're just letting them know they're there. I don't know. I like I said earlier, I was like, I think our full knowledge of these things. Well, in my remote viewing data, I just pulled it up here. I see it. The last thing that I wrote on my data was agency keep tabs on them. Agencies keep tabs on them. I believe that wholeheartedly. I think a lot of these things are monitored, and they know they're out there. But yeah, if they haven't hurt them, okay, if your friends have not been injured or hurt, or they're not completely terrified of them, I think it's actually kind of cool. I think it's kind of cool. Now, would I want to have dogmen living on my property? Probably not. Okay, probably not. I don't like the people and things looking in my windows. Okay, and I have a feeling they might. And who's to say? Like, imagine getting out of your car at night if you come home and it's late, and like standing beside your house or something, there's a big gigantic 7-foot dog man. Like how would that feel? Would you want to get out of your car? I don't know if I'd be comfortable getting out of my car.
Not even remotely, no pun intended, because you were just talking about remote viewing. But that reminds me of the case, even though that's not what we're here to talk about. That woman that just decided it was a brilliant idea to live in a glass house in Germany, where she claimed this thing could just look in her house the whole entire time.
Yeah.
Yes. Why would you ever want to be in a fully glass house? Because, I mean, a window is enough, correct? It also just keeps on tying back into, yes, we can verify people's pets are missing, we can verify livestock mutilations, but any sort of, at the moment, fatal or supposed Hollywood style encounter with dogmen and werewolves, we can't verify that. Yes, do we think potentially, big word here, that there could be involvement of Sasquatch and dogmen taking people in national forests? Yes, but do we have any sort of substantial evidence to pin it on either one of them at the moment? We do not. When you look in all those cases, right, where people say that they've had these Hollywood type encounters with dogmen, like the late Brenton Sawin, rest in peace, he was an OG in this field. Check out his YouTube channel. It's still up and about. This is back before YouTube and things that Miss Jessica Jones and myself are trying to do was really a hot topic. His podcast is kind of raw, but in a good way, meaning, I don't know, for people that like to just get to the point of things, that's what Brenton was all about. And a lot of his things were able to be verified, but he specifically covered this one case. And this is what I mean about not being able to verify this, where down in the Tennessee and Kentucky area. There was supposedly a vet that lived off grid. He had an encounter with this werewolf-like creature that came up to his porch while he was sitting outside. He fired at it, ends up feeling like he shouldn't have done that, calls his buddy down the street. They tell him to come over and hang out. He comes over and hangs out for a bit. They tell him, you should just stay here for the night. The guy's like, no, I'm not going to be run off my land. Goes back home, calls his buddy at like 2 in the morning, screaming, oh my goodness, this thing's coming in. It's ripping down my door. Claimingly, they hear him screaming. Okay, I'm not going to tell the whole story. Fast forward, they end up rushing down to his cabin. The suits and uniforms are already there, somehow knowing what was going on. One of the local sheriffs that was friends with these guys told him all that was found was a foot. That's what I mean. All right, sounds all Hollywood, super gnarly. Do I think something like that could happen? Yes, but do we have any sort of substantial evidence to prove any of that stuff? No. And that's what I mean too. Now back to the Beast of Bray Road. When they put out that movie, I think it was called The Beast of Bray Road or The Bray Road Beast. It was like a cheeseball horror movie that was a B flick. The gore was pretty gross. The werewolf itself didn't even look like a werewolf, and there was nothing based on a true story. All right, that was literally the title. And ironically, I had seen that when I was younger, then was like, what the heck, based on a true story? That's how I had found out more about the Beast of Bray Road, and it rang into my head. Wait a second, I saw Linda on Monster Quest, and then I started putting all the pieces together. But in that movie, all these people get unalive. This thing's breaking into people's houses, taking people out of their cars. None of that happens, though, which, again, is interesting, all right? Like you just said, is it because people are in their area, which these interactions become? I mean, Andrezzi was driving, drove up on it. It did chase her. Sure, you interrupted its dinner, but I'm assuming, again, assumptions aren't good. It could have got her if it wanted to, if it were scratching up her car, correct? Same thing with Lee, like I was telling you about, and Sophia. I mean, if it was looking in her window, why couldn't it just smashed out her window if it really wanted to get her? Same thing, Lee steps away for a second. It leaves a handprint. Again, why couldn't it just grab him at any point in time if it wanted to? Seemingly, it's not trying to unalive them. Again, every animal is going to have different behaviorisms. Yet, if this is a sign of how the majority of them would be acting, I don't know if they're going to be fully guilty of taking people all the time, per se, in the national forest. But again, everything acts different, and this is just off a small, broad spectrum of behaviorisms on Bray Road in Wisconsin. There are some other stories, though, that are super creepy from that area, too. A couple, at first, the woman is driving home, runs over something that seemingly was thrown in front of her car. She gets out real quick to wonder why the heck she heard thump, thump, thump. Is charged by what we think is the Beast of Bray Road. It leaps onto her car as she's driving, but then slips off, chases for a little bit, but then she speeds off. That does seem to be aggressive behavior, but again, it didn't continue the chase. Sure, it slipped off, but realistically, when she was running back to her car, supposedly these things can run like 35, 40 miles per hour, leap super far. I don't see why it didn't grab her right then before she even got back into her car and sped off. But she goes home, tells her husband. He's like, yeah, okay. What, did you hit your head today at work? She's like, no, I'm serious, dude. And he's like, all right, whatever, I'll go back with you. They go back. The thing is still off in the tree line. Well, the husband all of a sudden didn't want to play macho anymore. He's like, all right, I believe you. Let's get out of here. Her car had scratches all over as well. Before I tell you one more creepy thing from that area, what do you think about all that?
I mean, that's pretty scary. It's pretty scary. You know, if these creatures wanted to unalive them or unalive any of us, they would do it. And it's true, we just don't hear about it happening that much. Most of the majority of eyewitness accounts that I have taken, eyewitness accounts, if anything, the people who were involved were terrified. And maybe they were taunted by these dogmen. Okay, maybe they were taunted, and you know, maybe it was just the way they look. It's absolutely terrifying seeing this, something that's not supposed to exist. And so there's that factor as well. But most people are not getting ripped to shreds by these beings. Most of them are not, but then again, of course, we got all these missing people. We don't know what happened to them.
The analytics doesn't necessarily support that they are ripping people apart, but like you said, analytics are supporting there are people missing. So we definitely have a ton of more science that we do need to be diving into. It is so interesting. I have this next one as we do start to kind of round home plate here, because the Cryptid Huntress is extremely busy and has other things she needs to attend to and does need to haunt monsters, except luckily for me, I'm not included in that. But this gentleman was sitting in his living room pretty late at night. He had let his dog out recently, but the dog had free reign to go in and out of the doggy door at any point in time, which is kind of the whole concept of a dog door, correct? Well, he thought he heard his dog going outside of the door, but he's like, wait a second, I just let it out a little while ago. It's cold outside. Okay. Looks over. No, his dog's still sitting beside him in the living room as he's watching his TV. Now he is fully focused on what the heck is making the noise at the dog door. He sees the flap going back and forth and claims to see a very large, furry, human-like hand and arm come in through the dog door, as if to try to be reaching at his dog that is mortified and is legit pushing itself into the couch in the wall to make itself as far away as possible. And then this guy's looking over and sees, as the flap is moving around, an enormous wolf head behind the dog door looking in. And after getting up and causing a ruckus and slapping it, the arm supposedly pulls itself out. The dog door slams shut. He locks it. Nothing else had occurred per se afterwards. But right there, even with that case, I could see it trying to get the dog, because I'm not saying it doesn't go after dogs and things. I just previously said I do know and I can verify pets and livestock, etc. But if it really wanted that dude, that little front door isn't going to have withheld it. The reason I say that as well is one of our scientists, William White, he's well fit, he's athletic, does jiu-jitsu. He was able to rip the side of his camper off when his younger child had somehow locked himself in there. He didn't want his child to wound himself and couldn't get the door unlocked. He legit bent it, ripped it off. The reason I also say that is because, again, these things should have the strength to really have been able to get us, but also, what the heck? It's sitting here sticking its hand in through your dog door. And I do know that Sophia was very unimpressed when Josh Gates and Expedition Unknown went there and tried to tell her it was a wolf. She knows what a wolf looks like, and they saw the same tracks I saw. Those aren't wolf tracks. No way, by the mannerism of how they're standing and stepping. It's definitely bipedal. Bizarre stuff right there.
Oh man, that's one of my worst nightmare scenarios right there. That's also why it's good to keep a katana or some kind of sword by your couch. Okay, like always have weapons. We have so many weapons everywhere, so it's like it is just one arm's length away to grab something to shoot or to cut or to do something, because man, you got to be careful with those doggy doors. If you have a big dog, I don't recommend a big doggy door, because people can fit into those.
Mm-hmm.
Dogmen can fit into those. If you got a cat or a little tiny dog like a Chihuahua or something, you can get on those little doggy doors. But as they get bigger, people can fit into those. Okay, humans can fit into those. Please be careful, y'all. Don't do that. Oh, don't do it. And if something sticks its hand through your door, I think you have every right to chop it. Okay.
Yes.
That's what I would have done. I'm sorry. And especially if it was grabbing at my kid or my dog, it would have lost an arm that night.
Straight up creepy. I'm going to tell you one funny thing, and then we're going to tie it up here when I tell you a nightmare fuel thing. The funny thing is, when I was younger, we had a dog that would always just nip. All right. And he would nip me. So I'd bite him back, and he'd look at me and be like, what the heck? And I'd be like, yeah, what the heck? You just bit me. And he stopped doing that real quick, because you bite me, I'll bite you back, right? So on a funny note, it just made me think when the hand was coming in, just bite the hand, be like, get out of here, you know?
Yeah, bite it, chop it, shoot it, whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's one thing. I mean, it's interesting that he got a good look at it though, and he saw that it was like a wolf with human hands. Wow. But yeah, I'm a proponent of curtains on your windows and blinds, and also not having a doggy door, and making sure your doors are always locked too. Okay. But I guess
Right.
I just know what all's out there. I've experienced too much weird stuff to where I do not cut corners when it comes to safety, especially at my house.
You really can't go wrong there, my friend. Scare everybody out there, which it's not the meaning of this. You should just be safe. But the movie Candyman, again, is only based off of one true aspect of coming out of the mirrors. Wait, what? Yes. There was a run-down building with a ton of crime. I don't know the exact location, so I cannot put that out there, but it's pretty easy to find it out correctly. There's an awesome documentary about it. But the psychotic people would go through the walls, and they had figured out that they could pop people's mirrors out from the back when they were inside of the walls, and it would lead into your apartment. They had unalived numerous people like that, and that's where the aspect of Candyman, when he comes out of the mirror, that's where that all manifested from. Actual truth, where this woman saw these long hands coming out of her mirror because they had pushed the mirror off, and it was actually two men coming into her house.
Oh man. Well, I get into the whole superstitious side of things like this too, where here in the South we will, when somebody dies, I don't think people do it as much now today, but back in the day people would put blankets and sheets over their mirrors when somebody just mirrors are portals too, by the way. Like, I know what you're saying is like, well, they were utilizing the mirrors as like popping them out and coming in three-dimensional reality here. But also people use those for scrying and for spying on people. If you have these, especially people with like dark spiritual gifts, they don't mind using mirrors to spy on people. And that's why I don't particularly like having antique mirrors, not in my house, because I think they hold a lot of energy in them too. So mirrors are a little creepy. They can be really creepy, but now you just added a whole other element to it, where people are popping them out and going in people's rooms. My goodness. Let's tell the audience we don't live in fear. Okay, don't live in fear. Live in awareness,
Yes.
and have a katana sitting by your couch just in case somebody comes through your mirror or tries to crawl through your doggy door.
Just imagine being the one that experienced that, right? Just sitting there and actually luckily surviving. I personally don't believe in luck, so I'll rephrase that. Just surviving the encounter, passing that on. It's so bizarre, like you said. And I can't see my reflection, though, unfortunately. So I gave up on that a long time ago, you know?
Well, you are my one vampire friend that's admittedly a vampire. Okay, so I'm I sometimes I wish I didn't have a mirror around so I didn't have to see what I look like in the mornings, especially when I wake up. But
That's ruthless.
yes, but I do these shows, so I have to at least look in the mirror to put some makeup on, put my war paint on before I go live 4 days a week. So yeah,
That
I
is
love it.
so funny. One of my exes used to complain here on a funny note as we tie this up, since we just traumatized everybody. She had a huge mirror in her bathroom. I would always be in there on one side and she'd be on the other side. And somehow I would take longer to get her ready. And she would just be like, dude, get out of the mirror. It's so funny.
Hey, a lot of guys take longer to get dressed than women sometimes. So I know. I've dated some guys that took a little longer than me to get ready, so I understand.
It's just so funny, but excellent. Well, before we let you boogie, my friend, is there anything else you'd like to touch base on tonight?
Man, I think we covered it. I think we did a great job tonight. I am super stoked. We talked about the Beast of Bray Road tonight. That is one of my favorite beasts, favorite dogmen. And it's not just one, it's a whole bunch of them. And so many people have been having experiences with dogmen there on Bray Road. So thank you for bringing that up tonight. And I'm super excited about it. And yeah, I mean, I will keep my ear to the streets over here with all the Dogman reports. If we got anything new that comes out of Georgia or somewhere in, Alabama, Georgia area. And I'll see you next time.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate you, my friend. Excellent. And I will keep you updated on the Beast of Bray Road as well. Definitely linking up with Sophia and Lee bi-weekly. They'll have some more stuff for me. And Lee's got so many photos. I only have like 20 of them, and he's got like thousands. Straight up awesome stuff because they're both very good and way different elements of what they approach, and also have different viewpoints, but spot on evidence that ties into evidence. Like, what the heck is this? Yet to the audience, we do need to allow the Cryptid Huntress to attend to other things, as previously mentioned. If you would like to see what she's up to, well, you can always go over and check out her thread. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, and paying attention. She's always putting out live shows a few times a week. You can also click on the good old playlist down here with the Cryptid Huntress and myself to get caught up on some previous content. And yes, she will be back here again in a few weeks with some great, interesting Dogman and Werewolf topics that we can dive into and try to figure out. This is going to be the conclusion, though, of the meeting of the Midnight Society for the early hours of the morning. I do appreciate you hanging out with us tonight, Jessica.
Hey, thanks for having me on again. I love talking Dogman, so I can't wait till next time. Stay safe out there.
My creatures of the night, I do adore every single one of you. And thank you for stopping in tonight. If you do enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, share it, feed the algorithm, and I will catch you very soon.